Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of me trying to figure out beers and learn about beers and etc. Today I'm going to talk about a notorious beer, the Alexander Keith India Pale Ale. Yes, that one. There's been a lot of discussion online about whether Alexander Keith India Pale Ale is actually an IPA. A lot of people don't think it is. I've tasted it before, and I would also agree that it is not an IPA, at least not the kind of IPA that you would find at a craft brewery. It's very light, it's kind of crisp, it's not that hoppy. It tastes a lot like a standard lager. And in Canada, when you're talking about lager, you usually talk about Molson Canadian. And so today, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna compare the two lagers. Two beers, sorry. It was a Freudian slip, is that what it's called? Sigmund Freud. But you could just look at the Alexander Keith can marketing. They really hammer in the point that it's an India Pale Ale, and unlike whiskey or other type of spirits or even wine, for example, you can't call something a Burgundy unless it's from Burgundy. You can't call a type of whiskey bourbon unless it's made a certain way. You can't call whiskey Scotch unless it's from Scotland. So there aren't necessarily the same rules for beer, and that is why you could get away with shit like this. And it becomes a great marketing ploy. Not that I believe that people who get Alexander Keith think that they're getting a craft brewery type of beer. They probably think that they are just getting a lager beer because it's placed by the lager beer, so you naturally assume. Anyways, I guess the best way to start this program is to pour it out and sort of examine it, as the way we examine beer, sort of the way it looks, the way it smells, the way it tastes. So let's do that. So right now I'm pouring in the Alexander Keith India Pale Ale. Right off the bat, it does not look like any India Pale Ale that I've seen at craft breweries. Yeah, seriously. This does not look like an IPA. This looks like a lager. Obviously, IPAs are usually, they're quite hazy. You can't really see through them because of all the hops that they put in it. All right, here's Molson Canadian. If you've ever come up to Canada, you've probably tasted a Molson Canadian. Yep, that's a ridiculous statement. It's probably not true. All right, here it goes. So the goal here, I guess, is to compare the two. Just look at this. Alexander Keith, Molson Canadian Lager. They look like the exact same beer, right? You can argue that the Keith is just a hint darker, but I wouldn't give it that much. They both look like lagers. Boom, there you go. It doesn't smell hoppy. It doesn't really smell like the IPAs you have at craft breweries, the fine craft IPAs. It really doesn't. It smells like a lager. It smells like a lager. Let's try this one. It's the exact same smell. It's the exact same beer. It's unbelievable. Even the head, it's sort of fading at the same speed. So there's only one thing left to do. You know, it's really not that bad of a beer. Here I am making this really big deal about it. It's got a nice amount of flavor. It's not like a bunch of other lagers out there that are really light. I'm not a big fan of light beer. It's not like that. There is a hint of hoppiness to it. Very slight, nowhere close to the intense craft IPAs that you could get at breweries. Very nice, very crisp finish. Totally, exactly like a lager that yeah, let's just say that. It's like a lager. Not a lot of hop, a bit of sweetness that sort of hangs there. Yeah, it's a nice sweet beer. Pale ale maybe, but definitely not an India pale ale. This is the Molson Canadian. See, the thing about the Molson Canadian is it's not the highest quality beer you could find in the world. There is this kind of like slight musky kind of flavor to it. No fault of Molson Canadian. It is, in my opinion, if you're going for Canadian lager, Molson Canadian's not a bad choice. It's not a bad choice. It tastes very, very similar to the Alexander Keith. Not as sweet as a Keith, definitely a much more subtle finish than the Keith had. Perhaps that is where, usually when you add more hops, the harder hitting the finish is. And yeah, but both of these beers, super light bodied, super crisp. It's a lager. I don't know how it's qualifying itself as an ale. Perhaps it's like a cream ale where it's treated the same, or it's like a cloche. That's sort of like an ale. But I feel like it might just be marketing. And yeah. It's a little upsetting that this could happen, right? Because if we can't trust, marketers to market the beer appropriately, who are we supposed to trust then? You know? If, like, a lot of people aren't sophisticated with flavor, me especially, and if you tell me something is an IPA, I'll most likely believe you until I do an experiment like this where I put two beers side by side. It's like, is a Molson Canadian a lager as well? I don't know. I mean, a Molson Canadian is a lager. Is it an IPA? I don't know. So, is Alexander Keith an IPA? No, it is not. What's the difference between Alexander Keith and Molson Canadian, a lager? Well, not a whole lot. Maybe a different can is the main difference. Yeah, that's the thing about most of these, macro breweries, is that they sort of resemble each other. And that's one of the things we're trying to move away from when we're drinking craft beer. We like variety. So yeah, let me know what you think of Alexander Keith being named an IPA, and try this experiment if you want to drink 2 beers like I'm gonna do in like double fisting. Look at me go. Yeah. Yeah, it isn't really. You can't say it's an IPA. Very slight difference. Very slight. All right, that's me. If you like watching me yammer on, subscribe. If not, then subscribe in protest. Yeah. I'll see you guys later.